paper. Good. 3. No. I'm still on 3. Where's my paper? Oh. You want to say Israel Graham? Take Brown, what you want to do?
Go ahead.
Okay. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. This is an interview with Jacqueline P. Taylor for the Birmingham Civil Rights Oral History Project by Benny Miles at the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute at 2 p.m. on May 31st, 1996. How you doing?
Fine.
A little nervous?
A little.
Oh, you'll get over in just a moment. You had a good day today?
I do.
Good. Glad you could come out and be with us. Were you born in Birmingham?
I was.
Oh yeah? Where? What area did you live?
In Chittisville.
Uh-huh. Where'd you go to school?
I went to Washington, Center Street in Oldham.
Oh, you had a very wide career of schools, huh? Vast career. Do you remember anything about the area where you lived in Chittisville when you were a little girl?
Yes.
Where did you live?
About Memorial Park.
Okay, on 6th Avenue?
No.
One of the streets?
I lived on the back, on Iota. It's sitting right in the back of Memorial Park, so I was right at it.
Okay. Did you all live in an apartment or a house?
We lived in a 3-room house.
Okay. And how old were you that you can remember back to you? Were you like 5 or 4? Or
I believe I was about 5.
then you can remember yourself? What do you remember about living on Iota Street? How was it?
It was nice. We all were friendly. We
Uh-huh.
got along pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Myself and the children in the neighborhood, we all knew one another.
Yeah.
Went from house to house or whatever.
Oh yeah? Did your mom work outside of the home?
My grandmother, she worked at home.
So your grandmother raised you?
She did.
And she worked at home?
She worked at home.
Okay.
But she did do some outside work.
Okay.
She was mostly home.
A homemaker? Uh-huh. And your sisters and brothers?
I do.
How many?
I have 3 brothers.
Oh, you're the only girl?
Only girl.
Oh, so were you spoiled or were you a tomboy or?
I was kind of like a tomboy.
Uh-huh. And what about your mom or your dad? Were they around?
Yes, they were. My mother, she was around.
Mm-hmm. So what about the neighbors? When you were growing up, was there somebody in your neighborhood that if you did something wrong, they would always tell on you, you know, like every neighborhood has the Miss Nosy Lady?
Right. It was mostly like all of them because they all saw it as if we did wrong, they would tell it. And we had relatives on the same street that we lived on as well.
Oh, what other relatives that were in your same
We
street?
had cousins and I had an aunt.
Uh-huh. So was your grandmom and your cousins and aunt all lived on the same
Right.
block?
Right.
And that's something that you don't see that much of today, do you?
No, don't.
Was it fun having that, or was it like, I wish they didn't live so close?
In some ways, you wish they didn't live so close.
Uh-huh. I guess you learned a lot about sports early, didn't you, because of your brothers? Or did you?
Mostly, I was like a tomboy anyway. I would run, race, almost outrun the boys.
Oh, good for you. You said you lived near Memorial Park, so did you go to the park a lot?
Right. I love to swim. I used to swim a lot.
Okay. And when you went to school, you said you went to Washington School first. What do you remember about your school and the teachers and the principal there during your time there?
I had good teachers. For one thing, one of my teachers, I used to work for her on Saturdays.
Oh, did you? What, do you remember her name now?
Miss Willis.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember her first name, but it was Miss Willis.
And what did you do for her?
You know, do a little house cleaning, do little things like that.
And at that
Little
time,
odd things that she had.
teachers were really put on a high pedestal, and we always thought they had beautiful homes. Not that they don't today, but how was her home for you when you went over there compared to where you lived? Not that yours was bad, but teachers were, it's like we thought they made a lot of money.
Right. It was nice. It was very different from mine. And even another teacher from another side of town, I can't remember her name, but she lived across from her. I even was doing things for her too.
Mm-hmm. So you liked going to her
I like
house?
that. That was a way of me having extra money to get the things that I needed.
Mm-hmm. And what age were you then?
I think I might have been about 12.
When you were doing work there, working little businesswoman, huh, early on. So how was school for you? How was, you said Washington School, who was the principal at that time?
I believe Mr. Matterson.
Okay. What kind of principal would you consider him?
He was pretty good, a little, strict, that's where you're supposed to be, a little strict, but he was all right.
Then you left Washington and you went to Center Street School?
Right.
And did you move? Is that why you went to Center Street?
I went to stay with one of my aunts at that time.
And where was that?
That was on 8th Avenue, South.
Mm-hmm. And do you remember your principal at Center Street?
Mr. Sheehow.
Mm-hmm. Was he strict too, or was he a little more lenient, or how was it?
He was strict. It's just something about that. You have to be kind of firm.
What about your teachers? Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember them. They were pretty nice. It was one of them that I liked a whole lot. Mrs. Willis.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is the same as the other, but her name was Mrs. Willis as well.
Uh-huh.
I believe her husband was the principal of Lane School.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then you left there and you went to high school, Ullman High School. Were you involved in sports there?
No, I wasn't.
What about Ullman? Who was the principal, and was it a good experience for you, or how was that school?
It was fine. Mr. Bell was the principal at that time.
I think there are a lot of stories about Mr. Bell. He was a slightly built man,
yes,
right? But
he was good and strict. He didn't take too much.
Even with the big boys, huh? What do you recall him saying sometimes, the guys in the hallways or any of the students?
I can't remember exactly, because my husband and I, we talk about that now, how it was something particular he always said that Mr. Bear used to say, but I can't think of it.
It was like, let me have that hallway boy, or whatever, something
it's
like
something
that.
kind of strict like that. He was real demanding. He wanted respect, and he got it.
Mm-hmm. So when you said your husband, and you speak about it today, did he go to Ullman also?
He did.
And what were you saying about Mr. Bell?
He was just saying he was strict, and how he would get at you about being in the hall or whatever. He just was the kind of person that you just wasn't gonna run over. You were gonna be disciplined.
What do you think about schools then, when you look at schools today, and students and principals and teachers? I mean, we have good and bad in every situation, but in a general sense, what do you think about the schools today?
Well, schools today, it seems more like the teachers and things, they are firm and with the children, but it seems like children now, I don't know if the parents should be more strict on them, teach them how to carry themselves when they go to school and around others, and respect the teachers and things. You have to start at home with them, and then things will be more easier when they do go to school. It'll be easier for the principals and the teachers.
Mm-hmm. So you think that maybe we need more of that? We're not getting that in the schools in a general sense, and with the kids today. Uh-huh. What do you have children?
I do.
Mm-hmm. And would they consider you a strict parent?
Yes, they do. And then they kind of consider me kind of old-fashioned, my old-fashioned ways.
So tell us a little bit, what about old-fashioned? What are some old-fashioned ways that they say?
Okay, some of the ways that I act or I try to teach them, they say, oh, Mama, that's the old-fashioned way. These are new days. It's not like back then.
Give us some. Can you think of an example of something you may have said to one of your kids, and they say that's the old-fashioned way?
A lot of time, like the different music, how loud it is, different things like that, And it's just certain things that they do that we didn't do back then. And a lot of time, like children, they like to talk back and say things to you. It's certain things that they would say now that if we would have said at our time, our face would be just about
knocked off. Right.
But, now they call it child abuse. But it's not. If you would have more, could do more with your children now than you did back then, it would be much better for the children as well as everybody that's around them that has to come in contact with them. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And things would be a lot better.
When you look at, when people say back then, I guess every generation says that, because when you were growing up, you probably thought your grandmother did something that was too strict. When I get grown and have children, I'm not going to do that. But do you find yourself being the same way that
and it's even better being strict on me is better for them in the long run. Just like when my grandmother was strict on me, I thought she was so hard on me. But then I can look back. Since she has passed away, it's been many years. I said if I just only had her here now, I could tell her that I understood when she was trying to discipline me and tell me right from wrong, because I've experienced things now and I understand, and I appreciate what she tried to instill in me.
What about your own children? I don't know if you're a grandmother.
I am. I have 2 grandchildren.
And what ages are they?
They are 8 and 6 months.
Okay, so definitely the 8-month-old. I mean, as the 8-year-old. But now, does your daughter discipline your grandchild anything like you did? Or?
She does, but she may not be quite as strict as I am. But when he's around me, we talk. I try to tell him different things, try to tell him right from wrong and how he should act and how he should carry himself. And a lot of times he kind of be a little discouraged, and I tell him that always think of yourself just as good as anybody. I try to instill that in my children. Don't feel like there's nobody superior over you. That you're just as good as anybody, whether you have a lot or you have a little. It's just the way you carry yourself and you present yourself.
Sure. When you look back at your life, as sometimes you may think back of when you were a teenager and you found out about the movement, how did you find out about the movement and how did you get involved?
I started going to mass meetings.
Was your grandmother or anybody in your community involved, or your church? Or?
Some of the other children in the neighborhood, and I used to go to New Pilgrim.
Is that with the Reverend Fireball Smith?
Reverend Smith, right. Smith, right. I was going there with some of my friends that lived in the neighborhood, and I started going there, and then I started coming over to the 16th Street.
So when you went to New Pilgrim, Reverend Smith is still the pastor. Did you like the music there? Who played? Do you know anything about people who played the organ or the piano?
I think Mrs. Elsall, who's playing now, was playing back then.
And you didn't have to go to church with them. Was this something that you wanted to do?
No, I just started going with them, and I just got involved in that, involved in the movement.
Did it seem like it was just something exciting to do, or did you say, well, things that I've seen, I think it ought to be better, and I want to see what I can do? Right.
If it was some way to help to make things better, I want to be involved in it, and that's what I did. I thought if it would help.
When you went there, did you ever see Reverend King? Did he ever come to any of the mass meetings, or tell us about the mass meetings, how they were conducted?
All right. A lot of I may have. I always try to pull in my mind and see, did I see him? But I know I saw a lot of people. I saw Dick Gregory, and then I saw Jackie Robinson and Floyd Patterson, because they were coming to New Pilgrim in different places, to the meetings.
Was that exciting for you when these big
stars? It was
stars?
to see them. Right, it was.
And what did they say? Did they ever talk? Did they make a presentation, or were they just there?
I believe they talked. I believe that was the purpose of them coming, to talk and explain themselves. To talk.
Yeah. What about riding the bus as a student? Did you ride the bus to school, or did you walk to school?
We rode sometime, when the weather was bad, but most of the time we walked.
Okay. And kids don't walk to school today, do they?
But that was fun for us. We could talk, and just had a good time. We just, different groups of us just walking. We just enjoyed walking.
Well, when you did get an opportunity to ride the public transportation, did you always sit in the back of a bus and think, well, one day I'm going to sit up at the front, or did you think about that at all?
What I thought about was that it seemed like it just wasn't right. I kind of felt like it just wasn't right for us to have to do that, You sit back there. Like to me, if you get on the bus, you pay your money, you should be able to sit anywhere, that anybody else did, although we know at that time we couldn't do that. But it did kind of make you kind of feel a little bad. At least it made me feel a little bad to have to do that. See, that's where I get that from, by instilling in my children and grandchildren that, you're somebody, that nobody's superior over you, although this is the way it seemed like things was.
Did your grandmom, because you said your grandmother raised you, did she ever talk about that to you? About, because you couldn't sit on the front of the bus didn't mean that you weren't as good as somebody else?
No, she didn't. She didn't. It just things that came to my mind, my own thinking.
What about 16th Street? You said you went to 16th Street to some of the meetings too?
Yeah, that's where I came to a lot of the meetings.
How did you participate? What did you do, and what did they do at those meetings?
They talked and discussed things, and we sang, we should overcome.
Were you afraid that maybe one day some Klan people may come in there or something would happen?
I didn't even think on that. You would be a little afraid, but I don't know, just something within me. I've always kind of not been too scared on certain things.
Yeah. What about the SCLC? Did you get involved with them, Southern Christian Leadership Conference?
During that time?
Or are you involved now? Maybe not then.
No, not now, but when they have special, things at New Pilgrim that, they have, if you've been involved in things, a special Sunday or something that you come there, then I go to that.
Did you know anything about the Klan as you were growing up, or police brutality? Did you ever, in the neighborhood that you grew up, you lived near the city jail, so you probably occasionally maybe saw them bringing in prisoners, but did you ever see anything that the Klan may have done or heard anything about what they did during that time?
No, not at that time until the bombings, occurred.
What do you remember about the bombings? What do you remember?
Oh, I remember, when they bombed the church, and looking like we was out on the front, and in the ground in front of where we lived, the ground just shook. It just shook the ground. You could just
feel the vibrations.
Right, where we was living when that happened.
Did you ever want to participate in any of the marches, or did you at school?
I did participate in the marches.
How did that take place? I mean, you went to school one day, or did you know that it was going to happen? Did your grandmother or anybody know, or just give us that whole scenario?
I just came and just started marching.
Were you scared?
Just like I said, certain things I'm just not afraid of. I just wanted things better for us, so then I just joined the march and just started marching, and we were arrested too.
Oh, you got arrested?
Yeah, we got arrested.
Oh, and what, they just put you in the police car or the paddy wagon?
We were put in the paddy wagon.
And you said, my grandmother's going to kill me for real now.
I really thought on that then about her kind of being a little scared about her getting at me,
And how was it when you went to jail? What happened?
Okay, what they did, they put us in the paddy wagons, and then they took us over to the city jail. And they locked us, locked the fence, and it was so many of us over there. And so they let it rain on us first. They let it rain.
Really?
They let it rain on us. And after it rained on us, then they started putting some of us down in like a little cell that was, like where the old jail was. The jail is there now, but they remodeled it, but it was a little shed like up under there. They let some of us go up under there, and after that was too crowded, that's when they had a bus. Then they let us stay there. There was daylight when we were brought there, but it was almost dark when we were taken away from there. After it rained on us and they couldn't put all of us up under there, they loaded us up on a bus and took us over to the juvenile.
What happened over there?
And over there, that's when they was asking us questions, asking you different questions and stuff. And we had been told, if you're asked questions, to just tell your name and say no comment.
So they asked you a question?
They'll be asking you everything, but they're only to say your name and no comments. Anything else, nothing. You say nothing.
Do you recall what they asked you?
I can't recall what they asked me. But I know they were, asking you questions about different things, what was going on.
Were you scared?
Not
You
really.
weren't scared
I
then,
was
since you.
scared then. But you know, when I really was kind of a little scared, I was over it. When we was locked up over there at the jail, and I said, oh, I'm so close to home. If I could get out this fence, I could go home. Because it was right, I was right at home, right across the street, and I could walk on home. That's when fear just really started coming in then, you know, over there. But after we got to the juvenile and they asked us, you know, our names and whatever, we said no comments. And after they had locked so many of us up there, they didn't have enough room there. So they loaded us up on one of those yellow school buses and they took us, you know, down Long Avenue. And like the man, he wanted to kill us. He was bumping in every hole he was bumping in. And, you know, they're slamming us. And so that's, I believe, when they took us to Fair Park, that was the beginning of us going to Fair Park. That's where they kept us up at Fair Park.
So did anybody call your grandmother, your mom, or anybody?
They called, but we were there, I believe, about 3 days. I might have been there longer, 2 or 3 days. And you know, when they took us there, you know, they locked us up over there. That's when I think that's the beginning of us going to Fair Park, where they had us there, and you know, they had bunk beds all stacked up around there for us to sleep in. So they told us, you know, when we cut out the lights, we want everybody to be quiet and shut up, you know, don't make no noise. So some of the people were hollering because they said somebody was bothering them, so they cut the light on. And when they came in and somebody would say, the ones who was hollering, one of my friends that lived down the street from me that we went over, you know, we was marching together, they put her in a room and she had to sleep on the cement floor because she was hollering. When they told them to cut the lights out, you know, you were supposed to be quiet, and she wasn't, so she was taken and put on, you know, in a room, and she had to sleep on the cement floor.
Why did she keep hollering? You know?
She said somebody was bothering her, but they said, we cut the lights out for everybody to shut up and be quiet. So she was hollering, and then they pointed at her and said that she was the one, so they taken her there and put her on the cement floor.
Well, your clothes had to have been wet if you had gotten caught in the rain. Did they change?
We had the same clothes on.
For the whole 3 days?
For the 3 days. I don't remember changing any clothes. We had the same clothes on.
Do you remember what you ate, what they fed you?
Now, they fed us. They had some prisoners from the city or the county. They were the cooks for us there.
Oh, so how was the food okay?
I can't remember how the food was, but I know they fed us. And as, you know, it'd be some of us would be going to eat and some of us would be coming down, so you have to step aside, you know, to let some come past and then the other ones. And then during the daytime when we were there, you had to sit on the floor. They didn't put any chairs or anything. You had to either stand or sit on the floor, you know, on the cement floors.
Did anybody ever call your mom and them and let the grandmother let them know where you were?
Somebody did call because my friend who they put in the room for hollering, her mother was the one, when she came to get her, my grandmother had her to come
To get you? So, were you thinking, oh, when I get home, I'm going to be in big trouble. Maybe I want to stay here?
No, I wasn't afraid of that. You know, I wasn't afraid. I knew my grandmother was going to kind of say something to me, but I wasn't afraid of that. And it was some of the girls that were there, they had children and they were crying and everything. And I said, they're acting like little babies, you know, and they have children, you know, but I guess you just scared. It's something that you had never went through before, and that's what we was dealing with.
Did you feel after you got out of there that if I had it to do again, I wouldn't do it, or if I had it to do again, I'd do it again?
I didn't think that we might have. I'm sure that I did go to some more meetings and things after then. You know, I might not have gotten arrested anymore, but it didn't stop. We didn't stop, you know, because that happened.
When you look at the movement today, you look at the movement then, what do you think of it? I mean, is it good or better today or worse? Or then was people appeared to be more committed?
People were more committed, looked like to me at that time, than it is now. Now, that's my opinion.
What do you think you can do to change that? Is there anything? Or is it, you know, some people say, we don't need NAACP, we don't need SCLC anymore. We have integration, we've moved up in the corporate world, things are better. We don't need all that.
Things are better in a lot of ways, but still, for things to continue getting better, you still need these things. You still need these organizations.
Have you thought about, when you look back at the movement then and what you participated in, and then you see the Civil Rights Institute. Had you ever been to the Institute?
I've been here several times.
What do you think of it when you say, well, I played a part in this because, I went to jail, anything could have happened to me. I was there for 3 days. I mean, what do you think?
Of the answer to
Mhm.
yourself.
When you see it, do you have reflections of, does it bring back memories?
It does. It couldn't help but to bring back memories.
Mhm. What about your children? Have they been to the Institute?
They've been here, and my grandson has been here as well.
When you talk with the children, and even though they're adults now, and they see some films, things that happened years ago, and you say, oh yeah, I remember so and so and so, do they say, that's not really true, I don't believe that, that's just a movie? Or do
No,
they think that it
they
really
know that
happens?
it really happens because I had talked with them about different things.
Mhm. Are you still active in the movement?
Not
Or
really.
just with your church? When they have special projects? you
Oh,
still
yeah, when
with
they
your
have special projects. See, New Pilgrim is not my original church,
Mhm.
but when they have things concerning that, I go there,
Mhm.
to that.
What do you think about kids and voting? Back then, as you said, your daughter said, it was a privilege to be a registered voter, and it still should be. Was that instilled in you, like, stay in school, learn to become a registered voter when you are old enough?
Right. It was instilled in me to do that.
Mm-hmm. Do you think people take advantage of that now? Some people don't. To be registered voters.
Some people don't take advantage of that. I think it's important for them to do that, to become registered voters.
Mm-hmm. If you could change anything about the movement or add something to it today, what would that be? Or is it okay the way it is?
I think it should be better, but I don't know what I could change or what I could add to it, but I think things could be better. People could get more involved, and they need to stay involved. This is important. I think it's important.
Mm-hmm. When your children when you talk to them about what happened to you, does it make them feel that they want to make sure they continue to do the right thing, and that they want to become involved in communities and with kids and stuff? To make a difference, your children?
They do.
Is there something that I didn't ask you that you'd like to share with us?
I can't think of anything right off.
Okay. Well, we certainly thank you for sharing with us the information that you've given us about when you were growing up and being a part of the civil rights struggle.
I hope it's of some use or it benefit in some way.
Oh, it will.